So the war is over. We have won. The OGL has fallen. D&D is saved. Well, that's at least what they'd want you to believe. You see, today on FraudOnTheTele, I want to talk about the future of Dungeons and Dragons post this absolutely apocalyptic OGL drama. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out some of our other copious OGL videos. And let's just get into it, shall we? So as we said, recently, the D&D community has been rejoicing because it does seem like we've won the battle of the OGL. I've said this before on our last video, but I gotta give everyone in the community a round of applause. It really is impressive seeing a group of people band together to face off against a massive multi-million-dollar company and actually managed to win. I gotta say, it really was cool seeing the community band together, especially in their cancellation of their D&D Beyond subscriptions. Obviously, enough of a dent was made in the old Wizards of the Coast pocketbook to where they actually had to take us seriously. So again, a round of applause to everyone else. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about with the OGL drama, click the I above to see some of our other videos. In short, Wizards of the Coast was looking to change a open gaming license agreement that has stood in place for over 20 years, and a bunch of the changes to this agreement would essentially hardcore monopolize the D&D tabletop market space, basically two wizards absolutely killing several other smaller indie companies that had used the original OGL to kind of develop either their board game, their product, their modules, whatever it was. Essentially, broadly, the OGL 1.1 was going to kill the modern D&D renaissance that we've been experiencing over the last kind of 5-6 years. As we said, the D&D community has won the battle, and now the OGL 1.0 seems to going to remain around in perpetuity with no changes as well. Wizards will be adding a huge section of D&D rules to Creative Commons licenses, hopefully, potentially, making it to where something like this can never happen, at least in this way, in the future. However, though, this does not mean that the future of Dungeons and Dragons is anything but certain. And frankly, I, for one, am never going to trust this company ever again. So what was the whole reasoning behind this whole OGL fiasco from the get-go? Well, it's pretty simple, and it's one that I think you might be able to figure out. It was money. Greed. And it primarily goes back to two specific people. One, Wizards of the Coast COO and CEO Cynthia Williams, and two, Chris Kao, the executive producer over at Wizards of the Coast. Now, both of these two have gone on record over the last few years talking about how Dungeons and Dragons and a lot of Wizards of the Coast properties are woefully under-monetized. The OGL and many of its changes was an attempt to basically solve this problem for Wizards, as well as give them, well, some rather scary power and control over the Dungeons and Dragon and tabletop space. You see, here's the thing about drama in kind of the big public space, and especially the way that I believe that a lot of these higher-up executives at Hasbro and Wizards kind of look at it. To them, this whole thing in the beginning was overblown. They never thought that this was going to become the drama shit show that it ended up being, and while they labeled the OGL 1.1 as a draft, it very much seemed like, had there been no pushback, that's what they would have gone with. And that's very scary. You see, Cynthia Williams and Chris Kao are not, well, they're not tabletop community people. Chris Kao may have a background in gaming, but he very much thinks that his background in PC gaming and PC gaming development and monetization translates one-to-one to the tabletop role-playing space. Now, I'm not saying that every single person that's in Wizards of the Coast or in Hasbro's necessarily has to be a tabletop role player endemic to our space. But here's the thing, though, guys. When you bring in people who don't understand the space and don't understand that the tabletop role-playing game space necessarily cannot be monetized in the same way that gaming, specifically PC gaming, free-to-play gaming, can be, but yet they try anyway, well, problems are going to arise. These are not the same spaces. You can't expect to monetize something like D&D in the same way that a game like, I don't know, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, you name it, take your pick on any of these massive monetized microtransaction games. But that hasn't stopped them from trying, and I'm going to tell you right now, it won't stop them from trying again in the future. We talked about this in our last video over the OGL, but Wizards has right now in the works a massive virtual tabletop program with Unreal Engine that they believe is going to change the virtual tabletop space forever in the future, and possibly change D&D forever. This was but a large part of what the OGL was part of. They had a whole virtual tabletop space kind of memo that had some wild rules written basically about virtual tabletops. If you don't know what a virtual tabletop is, basically it's an online space program which allows you and me to play tabletop games in this really cool kind of server immersive space. Especially after the COVID lockdown era, the rise in these virtual tabletop gaming servers and spaces absolutely blew up, as you're able to hold your normal tabletop role-playing game. We would speak together over Discord, but we could all meet together in this server, have a bunch of maps, interactive player sheets, all sorts of crazy video game-esque kind of modules that go along, making for an awesome kind of immersive role-playing space, one where we don't have to meet face-to-face. It very much is the future of role-playing games, the future of tabletop RPGs. And Wizards very much wants to be the monopoly on it. You see, as we said, the way that this works kind of in these public spaces, the way that many public figures treat big blowback from their audience or from their communities is the old wait and watch method. Generally, as you'll see with many YouTubers who get in trouble, or corporations that get into trouble with their community, fan base, or whatever, anyone that purchases their items, generally the main strategy is to apologize, wait and go into the darkness, and then just ignore it, and eventually people around you will forget. Wizards of the Coast very much believes this. You can even tell because of, one, the fact that they released another module for Dungeons & Dragons, a book during January, at the end of January, amidst this whole entire chaos, but they still silently released this book, a move that one wouldn't think would be the smartest decision, especially when the majority of your fan base is revolting against you. As well, when we remember that the Dungeons & Dragon movie, one that was pretty hyped, especially from within the corporation of Wizards and Dungeons & Dragons and Hasbro's, also is releasing kind of amidst all of this drama. So you best believe that it was in their best interest to make the fan base as happy as possible, as quick as possible. But don't think for 1 second that this means that their motives, the motives behind their action, primarily to make that money, that dosh, that paper, is gonna go away. No, they're gonna continue to try some cheeky things here to make a quick buck. We only have to look as far as another of Hasbro's properties, Magic the Gathering, to see just how much that they're going to milk the monetization out of this product. We need to be extremely wary of this company, and the way that they treat Magic the Gathering is, if anything, a forewarning for how they will treat Dungeons & Dragons. I don't mind a company trying to further monetize their product. They're probably right. Dungeons & Dragons is woefully under-monetized, especially when you consider that for a long time it was very much an in-person, a tactile thing. You needed a book, you needed friends in person in order to play Dungeons & Dragons, so a large part of their sales came from these physical books, physical dice, physical things. Now, though, we live in the digital world, especially after the recent purchase of D&D Beyond by Wizards of the Coast. It seems that they realize this now more than ever. Dungeons & Dragons is moving into the virtual space quickly. If it isn't already the primary way that most people play tabletop games, then it will be in the near future, and Wizards knows this. I can't tell you what to do, guys. I can't tell you to stop spending money with this company, and I don't necessarily expect you to. I can say this, however, they will continue to do malicious strategies like this. They will continue to push the boundary on what is acceptable, what the community views as acceptable. At the end of the day, they want to make all of the money that they can from their property, their intellectual property, and they don't want other tabletop role-playing games to take any of what they believe is their money in their space. We've already seen a mass exodus from Dungeons & Dragons to Pathfinder, as well as Call of Cthulhu. However, though, Dungeons & Dragons is absolutely massive. There's still going to be a ton of people who still continue to play 5e, even if they don't spend any more money with Wizards. And there's going to be a bunch of people who do continue to give Wizards their money. Maybe not now, maybe not next month, but within 6 months, 7, 8 months from now, they probably will. All it takes is for Wizards to release one product that people find genuinely interesting, especially when their virtual tabletop releases whenever the heck it does. I can almost guarantee you that a bunch of these people are going to turn around and head back to this company. But I'm going to warn you right now, guys, this is the fruit of the poisonous tree. I can only imagine the depths of depravity and monetization that are going to come out when this virtual tabletop comes out, the one that Wizards has in development. I mean, you can think about it right now, the levels of microtransactions, different tiers, and unlocks that you'll need just to get, I don't know, certain type of spell animation, access to certain mini types, customizing dice, you name it, I guarantee you they will put a potential paywall behind it. We've already seen that they want to increase the level of tiers of the payment for the D&D Beyond subscription, different tier lists. So who knows what in the future they will do in order to make some money. Unless some massive changes are made at the top of this company and people like Cynthia Williams and Chris Kao are gone and replaced by people who obviously still want to make a profit, but are way more understanding of the wants and the needs of the community who spends its hard-earned money on your products, Wizards, then we can't trust them. I'm going to be honest, guys, I am worried about the future of Dungeons and Dragons under Wizards of the Coast. Obviously, they do not own Dungeons and Dragons in perpetuity. You and I can play Dungeons and Dragons at our home. I can play Dungeons and Dragons with whoever I want, whenever I want, and not give Wizards a single dime. While they may own parts of Dungeons and Dragons, they don't own the tabletop game as a whole. They can never own the homebrew that you and I come up with or the unique stories that appear within our brain and we tell amongst each other. However, though, I don't think that's going to stop them from potentially trying. I leave you with this one message to take into the future. Continue to be wary of this company always. Remember what they did here. Remember how in one fell swoop from one leak, they absolutely destroyed their reputation and their relationship with the Dungeons and Dragons community. Something that took years to build up, thrown away within one single day, all because of one linked document, one that they still claim is a draft, but we all know that if they could have gotten away with that shit, they most definitely would have. Dungeons & Dragons as a whole will forever be okay. They can't take it away from us as hard as they may try, and though they may try to change it into something very different in the future, but really at the end of the day, the people who play this game at home, online, in game stores, in libraries, wherever, are the people who make this game, and they can't take it away from us. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I highly encourage you guys to go purchase a Pathfinder or a Call of Cthulhu book today, and let's stop giving this predatory company our money until they prove to us that they are going to change for the better in the long term. Until next time, stay safe out there. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace, love, adieu.
Story that might be, we wasn't supposed to happen. So much talk around us, we became numb to the yapping. It was like 05, got my license to drive. Picked you up in my pop's car, went for a ride. Couldn't no one tell us nothing that night.